Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the FSB National Webinar on how to maximise your membership. My name is Ness Gale, and I work for the FSB as an Operational Support Coordinator. And this webinar is aimed at ensuring you make the most of your FSB membership. Now, that's whether you've just joined or if you've been a member for the FSB for some time, or if you're not even a member yet. This will give you a great idea of what you gain from joining, and we'd love to have the opportunity to speak to you further about the benefits of joining if you're not yet a member. You can visit our website, which is www.fsb.org.uk, and you can book a meeting with a membership advisor. I think one of our panelists members, Gardner, is going to tell you about a special offer that we have at the moment, and you'll hear about that later. Did you know that the FSB is the biggest member business group in the UK? We run a unique online research community called Big Voice. Big Voice is the place where our members can have their say on behalf of small businesses across the UK. And our Big Voice surveys are on topics significant to all small businesses and the self-employed. So just before we turn to our panelists, I'll mention a couple of housekeeping points. Feel free to use the chat box to introduce yourselves to each other and let us know where you're from, but you won't be able to save the chat, I'm afraid. If you want to ask any questions during the session, please use the Q&A function box at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and we'll try to get through as many of them as we can today. Don't use the chat box for questions because we might not see them and we'll miss them. Now, if we don't get through all the questions, we will get back to you after the webinar and answer your questions then. And finally, just to let you know that we're recording today's webinar. We will send the recording to everyone that's registered after the event, along with any links that we mention. So don't worry about writing anything down because you'll be able to look at the recording later. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Grace Graham, who is an FSB member and an FSB volunteer. We've got Sarah King, FSB Development Manager for Greater London. We've got Gardner Patterson, who's the FSB National Field Sales Manager. And we've got James Cordiner from our Tax Investigations team at Markel Law. So maybe first of all, we could just take a minute for each of you to just introduce yourselves and just give a very brief background of how you fit into the FSB family. So first of all, Grace, what do you do and how long have you been a member?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, and hi, Ness. Thanks for your introduction. So I'm Grace Graham, and I am a business owner of Keep It Simple Training Company, and I've been a member of FSB since 2016, and I became a volunteer member in 2018, and I was leading the Hackney event lead, and now North East London event lead. And then in 2019, I became the Diversity and Inclusion Policy Lead for London. So that's me.
Thanks very much, Grace. That's brilliant. Okay, over to Sarah now. If you could just introduce yourself, Sarah.
Thank you very much and welcome too. It's good to be on the call today and to support this event. My name's Sarah King, and as you can see, I work for the London team. I'm actually a staff member for the FSB, and so how I sort of fit into the organisation is that I am one of many DMs, as we call ourselves, across the UK. And in the London team, I work alongside two other staff colleagues, but I have the absolute privilege to support a wonderful volunteer team. Obviously, Grace is on this call today, so really pleased that Grace could join this event today. So as I mentioned, I support a volunteer team in London and I support our members in London, but I mainly concentrate on members south of the River Thames. And obviously my colleagues and DMs across the country are doing similar roles to support membership for the FSB.
Thanks ever so much, Sarah. If we could turn to you, Gardner, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Ness. My name's Gardner Patterson. I'm the National Field Sales Manager for FSB. I've been with the organisation 10 years next week, would you believe? So it's absolutely flown in. My responsibility to the organisation is to look after all the members that come in from our field-based membership advisors, of which there's nearly 80 up and down all over the country. So it certainly keeps us very busy, and we hope to speak to you soon. Back to you, Ness.
Thanks, Gardner. And finally, and lastly but certainly not least, over to you, James.
Thanks, Ness. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. It's good to be here and be part of this event this afternoon. So my name is James Cordner, and I head up the tax investigations team here at Markel. I'm based in our office here in Rugby. It was previously known as Abbey Tax, and we've been providing support and assistance to FSB members now for more than 25 years. I've been on this side of the fence. I used to work in HMRC. Was there for 17 years, but I've been on this side of the fence for nearly 18 years now. And our team of consultants all come from a similar background, which gives us the experience, expertise and insight when dealing with HMRC inquiries. And that's what I'm going to share with you in a bit more detail in a little bit. But happy to take any questions either throughout the event or at the end of the event. I think it is maybe what Ness said, and happy to share my contact details as well. I'm also on LinkedIn, quite easy to find if you did want to connect with me. But yeah, good to be here this afternoon.
Thanks ever so much, everyone, and thank you for giving up your time today. We're all here to find out about the benefits, aren't we? So perhaps, Gardner, could you just give us an overview of some of the benefits? I know there were a lot, but perhaps you could just summarise some of them for us.
Of course I will, Ness. Thank you so much. Folks, thanks for joining today. It's great to speak to so many members and perhaps a few non-members as well. FSB membership, as you would expect me to say, is a fabulous product. It comprises of 26 different things, which form your rights of membership. There's a lot more to FSB membership than most people think, and we've got 5 new membership advisors on familiarisation in head office right now over the next 3 days, learning all about FSB membership. So I'll try my best in the next 4.5 minutes to tell you as much as I can. But I think the first thing that's really, really important to remember is that it's you, the person, that's the member. It's not a business membership, it's the personal membership for you. But the great thing about that is that covers you for professional intricacies or any issues you may face, but it also covers you privately as well. So you're a member both privately and professionally. So please bear that in mind. If you have any issues away from business, you are still fully protected under the rights of FSB membership. So that's certainly the first thing. It also covers you for multiple businesses. It's not just the business that you principally operate in. If you've got another, and if you're lucky enough to have another, or unlucky enough, depending on which way you look at it, to have multiple businesses, you will find that your FSB membership covers you for all of those business interests also. So it's something that can sometimes be forgotten, but it's hugely important for you to remember that, because it makes such a huge difference professionally and privately and with multiple businesses. But there are many, many benefits, and I wouldn't assume to try to get through 26. I'll maybe get through 2 or 3 if that's okay with everybody. And I'll look at the flagship things, the pillars of our membership that really hold everything up. So the first thing I would take your attention to would be the legal protection scheme and the legal hub. And I'll talk maybe a wee bit later on about the legal hub and how that operates and how that's a huge benefit. But the legal protection scheme protects you, the business owner, and your business up to £100,000 per case. It looks at all aspects of the difficulties, any legal issues, unexpected legal costs that come into you as a business. Ordinarily, small to medium enterprises could find that quite difficult to deal with, not just financially, but also from a time point of view. You know, it takes up a lot of your time. So FSB take that in-house. We will deal with that for you. We will appoint and give advice through advocates, barristers, solicitors to ensure that you get best practice and best advice at all times. It also allows you the time to go and run your business and become profitable and earn that hard-earned income that you deserve. So it's really, really important that if you get a chance, have a look at your membership, jump onto the legal protection scheme and have a look at that. As part of that scheme, we include the tax investigation protection cover, which James is going to run through. The tax protection cover is probably one of the top 2 reasons that all our members join. It's absolute a bubble wrap for business, but I'll let James talk to you a wee bit more about that later on. You've also got things like your in-house insurance company, FSB Insurance Services. They are run by your members and only for our members. They're a completely bespoke dealership, which allows us to broker packages which suit you and your specific type of business. The biggest benefit to you as a business owner is that you get, because you're an FSB member, access to heavily discounted rates on a package which is bespoke to your business and what you physically need. So you're not having to pay additional sums of money for a generic product that has got half a dozen benefits you just don't need. FSB Insurance Services can put together a package completely bespoke to you and your business, and we can offer huge discounts on that. And as I said earlier, it's run by our members for our members. So if you are a member, you know, we've had examples of businesses saving £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 a year just on their insurance costs with an initial investment to FSB membership of £177. So it makes huge financial sense from an organisation to actually have a look at FSB insurance because it will, I'm pretty sure, save all our members a hell of a lot of money over the piece. We have things like FSB Care, which is not a Bupa type product, I would have to say, but it is access to doctors and nurses for medical advice and medical care. It includes things like physiotherapy. It also includes mental health therapy as well, if that's something that you would want to take some advice on. And that covers both you and your members of staff as well, because we understand as an organisation that if you have a member of staff that is not at work for whatever reason, you as the business owner want to get that person back to work as quickly as you can, because that could in effect be having quite a big impact on your turnover. So FSB Care is there, a service through FSB membership as a right to membership, which gets you access to specialised people that can help you or your members of staff get back to work quickly, in turn making you guys profitable. Goodness me, we're nearly done already, Ness. What's the chances? Also, I would mention the FSB app, which is something we launched last year. You can get that through any of the Google Play things or the Apple App Store. You can download the FSB app. You just need to register once to put your membership details in, and then basically you've got everything in the palm of your hand, every single benefit we offer, access to every single event that we run, including this one. And it's also got logs and histories which you can look at, which allows you to look at the events you've attended, the ones you would future like to attend, and add to your calendar. So please, if you do get a chance and you are an FSB member, please download the app. It'll only take you a couple of minutes, but it's the best thing you will ever put in your hand in your life. Ness, back to you.
Thanks ever so much, Gardner. And I know really and truthfully, we could talk all day about the benefits, couldn't we really?
Yes.
There are so many of them. I was just going to briefly mention very quickly a couple that I'm aware of. I know there's a jury service package for people who get called for jury service, which I know is pretty good. And when you were talking about FSB Care just now, it reminded me that I had used FSB Care when my dad died and a few years ago, and they sorted out some bereavement counselling, and it was absolutely brilliant. So I could thoroughly recommend FSB Care to anybody.
Indeed.
But I know we're going to hear a bit more from you later, Gardner, and especially about the Legal Hub. So thank you very much. Anybody got any questions, do please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom, because we will come to those at the end. And there's a whole host of other things like free business banking, all sorts of stuff like that. And hopefully we'll be able to cover some of those later. Okay, thanks very much, Gardner. And we'll turn now to James Cordner, and he's going to talk to you especially about the tax investigation benefit.
Thanks again, Ness. Thank you. I'm just looking at the clock. I'll keep an eye on things. I do tend to run away with the time a little bit. So I think it's 12:44, so I'll keep an eye on that. As I said in my introduction, I'm going to speak mainly about tax investigation cover, and that's primarily because my whole working life has been spent in tax for my sins. I spent 17 years, as I say, in HMRC, and that's the reason that I do what I do now in part, with FSB and it's something that I'm quite passionate about, and that's something that I've spent the last 18 years or so doing. So I'm going to speak to you a little bit, as Gardner's just said, we're limited in what we can speak about within the time, but we'll try and cover the main things, and that's important to get certain messages across today. So I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of the legal expenses benefits, but the focus is primarily on tax investigations because that's my area. So first thing I'd like to mention is the access to the legal advice lines, which is a 24/7 legal advice line, and that access is available to all FSB members, and that's something that's really important. They cover a wide range of areas. I'm just going to mention a few here. You've got things such as property disputes, employment law, and license issues, to name but a few. But any legal issues that arise, it's certainly worth making that call to the legal advice line. It's a really useful service that's available to members. Members also have access to our tax and VAT advice lines. Now, I'm based in our office here in Rugby, and those advice lines are based in the office here as well. So I've got close contact with my colleagues that work on those advice lines. Now, they operate on a office hour basis, Monday to Friday. Really experienced team of people that work on those advice lines, and it's again certainly worth picking up the phone, even if you just want to double check something in relation to tax or VAT issues that may arise in your business. Have a chat with them, and they'll be more than happy to speak to you. When it comes to my own specialist area of work, which is tax investigations, I mentioned already the team that I head up, we're all ex-HMRC, all that been there and done it, so to speak, and that's why we do what we do now, and that's the expertise that we bring into the organisation within Markel Tax. What I'd like to mention is really because of that inside knowledge, it does give us, I do apologise. Sorry, that's come in through my laptop, through our system. I do apologise for that. Yeah, when it comes to that specialist area and the knowledge that we've got, that gives us a heads up when we're dealing with specific inquiries for FSB members. And that means that we know how inspectors are likely to act during the course of an inquiry, and we can give the best advice based on that as to what to expect. We pride ourselves in giving that honest, straightforward advice to the people that we deal with and the members that we're dealing with. And that really guarantees the best possible outcome we feel during the course of an inquiry. The bottom line is that inquiries can be extremely time consuming, extremely stressful for the individuals concerned. It's generally not a quick process either. For anyone that's gone through it, they will probably appreciate that. I mean, inquiries can vary in length. They can go on for a number of years, to be perfectly honest, but it does obviously vary from case to case depending on the circumstances. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of inquiries into specific areas, being the furlough scheme, CGRS, scheme that was brought in during the pandemic, and also the self-employed income support scheme. So a couple of areas where HMRC have been quite active in recent months and still are. I've got 5 kind of key areas that I want to cover and messages that I want to leave with you just in this brief session, if that's okay. So the first one is, and most importantly, I think, well, maybe not most importantly, but it's a key part of the benefit. It's a free service. That's really important to emphasize that. There is no cost to members in utilising this service. There is absolutely no cost. And we basically front up that inquiry on your behalf, and we will liaise with yourself and your accountant once the claim's accepted, and any costs that are required from your accountant to assist with us, providing they're authorised and agreed in advance, they will be reimbursed, and so there is no cost to you. If you are VAT registered, yes, at the end of the inquiry, you'll get a VAT-only invoice for our time, but that VAT element can be reclaimed through your next VAT return. So I go back to that point, there is no net cost to you as a member. as I've said, that part of it just, can't reiterate enough, that element to it. And I'd certainly encourage any members who get an inquiry letter or any other contact from HMRC to, make a claim, pick up the phone to FSB or pick up the phone, to our tax advice lines and speak to somebody, about the letter and how we can help, because it's certainly something that we'd be more than happy to have a chat about. Excuse me. Now, in relation to our role is effectively to minimise the impact of the inquiry on your business and you personally. We know the process, we know what to expect, as I say, been there and done that, and we're with you every step of the way. And to be honest, in that regard, it's better for us to be involved right at the start of the inquiry so that we can deal with and manage things right from the off. That's certainly, what we prefer, but we do get involved in some cases that have been going on for a bit longer as part of the process. But it's good to be involved, as I say, as early as possible. As I said, we know the process. We deal with the queries that HMRC, send out. And, as far as we're concerned, we will explain HMRC's position, we'll explain their actions, and we're there to provide a robust defence where that's necessary in any particular issues that arise. But it's really just being there for you throughout the inquiry process. I mean, there are occasions when there are amendments required and adjustments needed as part of the process. But again, from our side, we're looking to minimise the impact of those, make sure that any outcome is fair and reasonable for you as an individual and the impact on the business, and also seek to minimise the exposure, to any penalties that HMRC might want to impose as well, because that's really important as part of the inquiry process. Third point, and I am keeping an eye on the time, Ness, I am going over a little bit, apologies. Third point is that we provide a really valuable buffer between yourself and HMRC. We are the first point of contact for any correspondence with HMRC. Most of that is done over email nowadays, so tends to be a little bit quicker, but HMRC have suffered in creating, unfortunately, a number of delays in their activity over the last while, but that's largely been because of the pandemic. If any meetings are required, and you're not obliged to attend any meetings, but if they are required, we're involved in that process as well as necessary, and we'll discuss the benefits of whether attendance at a meeting would be useful given the circumstances of the inquiry. But the main thing is that we're there with you throughout the process, and that hopefully takes a lot of the stress of the inquiry away and allows you to focus on your day-to-day responsibilities and running your business with a minimum of disruption. Fourth point I want to mention is that even when you keep good business records, and a lot of business owners do, that doesn't exempt you from being selected for an inquiry, for a review by HMRC. And the costs of that, defending a position, where there's nothing wrong, can still run into thousands of pounds. Now, thankfully, the FSB policy that you've got provides cover up to £100,000. So you're well covered in the eventuality, of that circumstance arising, and there's no need to worry about the financial impact, of the inquiry, throughout that process, given the level of cover involved. Now, finally, in a brief overview, I would really strongly recommend that when you do get any contact from HMRC, that you do touch base with the FSB or ourselves at the earliest opportunity. It really is the best way to to take things forward, with any inquiries. Generally speaking, you should notify a claim within 6 months of the event arising. So when you get that letter from HMRC, if indeed you do, then within 6 months it would be useful to make contact. Now, there are some exclusions, but they are kind of the obvious ones. If it's an inquiry from Fraud Investigation Service where there's a suspicion of fraud and maybe criminal, then that's something that would be excluded. But generally speaking, most instances are covered through the policy. So in summary, when facing a tax investigation or indeed a VAT review, because we deal with that as well, it's something that you would best to seek advice and get that best level of support that you can get from us, which we feel we do provide at Markel. So I'm going to wrap up there, and I apologise, Ness, because I did go over quite a bit. So you can shoot me now.
Well, thank you so much, James. I know you could continue talking about it for ages, couldn't you? And it's a real important area. And it's so good to know that should something like that happen, you're in a safe pair of expert hands, really, of people who really know what they're doing, because, you know, it would just be a big panic, wouldn't it? You know, you'd just worry. So that is fantastic. I think it's really important as well to hear from a member, from the member's point of view, as to how they've used the benefits. So I'm going to turn over to you now, Grace. And I know you've used the Legal Hub, and perhaps you could just let us know a little bit about your experiences with FSB benefits.
Hi, hello everyone. So I've been watching the Q&A, and I'm thinking, great, asking all the questions I'm going to answer. I've been, as I said, I've been a member since 2016, and it took me about a year and a bit to start using the benefits. And I guess the one that I used the most was events, going to events and meeting other members and, you know, showcasing my business. Now, when I started with FSB, I kind of knew what I was doing, but actually where my business was 6 years ago was nowhere where it is now. So going to events really helped me to shape it, because I'd listen to the questions people ask, and if I couldn't answer it, I'd go back and think, okay, let's see how I can, you know, refine this so I know what I'm doing and I can tell people. So the way I used it, one of the ways I used it was to be seen and to meet other people. Gardner touched on quite a few of the benefits that I use. So I've used the FSB app, and it's really brilliant. It's like, you know, it's on my phone. Hey. So if I want to book myself onto an event, I can do it from my phone. If I want to book a call with the Legal Hub, which I've used to great effect, I could do it from my phone. FSB Care from my phone. So I've used events, FSB Care, the Legal Hub, and FSB Insurance. And ever since I've been a member, I've been with FSB Insurance. I haven't used anyone else because it is competitive. If, you know, any time that I'm due for a renewal, you know, it's pretty much the same price as I would have had the year before, but also it's very bespoke, it's very tailor-made to your business. And as Gardner says, you know, you are the person who is insured, but you are the member. So my business has changed considerably now. You know, instead of being coach, I've now turned it into a training company. So that's when I started to use the Legal Hub, and the Legal Hub helped with documents I needed for contracts, for example. And if I didn't know which contract to use, I'd call the hub and say, you know, I'm doing this, I'm going to be working in this way. What type of contract do I need? And then they'd say, you know, you'd need a business to business contract, or you'd need a business to client contract. And then I'd use that, and then I'm fine. And before I used the Business Hub, I got burnt really, really badly. So now if I'm going to make any changes whatsoever, I always get in touch with the Legal Hub. FSB Care, I've used that, and a few years ago I had a breakdown, and while I was waiting for my NHS appointment, the FSB Care came in straight away. So we used to have calls every couple of weeks. It was a nurse, and it was cognitive behaviour therapy, and it was fantastic. And here I am today, living proof that it works. So really did support me with my mental health. The Legal Hub, I absolutely loved it, because when I'm in the process of changing my business model, so I called them, and 20-minute conversation just answered everything I needed. And then they said to me, you probably want to speak to the tax people, because I was asking about tax. And then they put me on to somebody who talked about tax, and within 5 minutes, I knew the score. So it was fantastic. And I'm really glad that they're doing this, because so many members, I meet members who join and I say, I don't know how to use this. So really, really good idea to have these benefits and, you know, these webinars. So do keep doing them. Lots of benefits. Meeting new friends. I'm running out of time, but I'm going to chat and as quick as I can. So the great benefits I've had is meeting new friends, lifelong friends to help with business, getting the voice heard, winning new and relevant business, getting referrals, and carrying the FSB name has brought great benefits. I lecture in a college, and I also run, you know, as part of that, I run 2 apprenticeships programs, and I'm seen as the professional or one of the professionals to go to. So it's really, really great. And being a part of a community panel to interview the CEO for the Hackney Borough is awesome. But the nicest benefit is the mayor of my borough saying that he's my biggest fan. So anybody, you know, talk to a member who uses the benefits and speak to your membership advisor. There you go, Ness.
Thank you so much, Grace. And we will hear from you a little bit later. And it's so lovely to have such an enthusiastic member who's used so many of the benefits. And also, thank you very much for sharing your very personal story. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to turn to our development manager representative, and that's Sarah. And I know Grace just touched on one of the benefits, that's the networking, and maybe that might be something you can also tell us a little bit more about. And what exactly does a development manager do?
Okay, no, thank you very much, Ness. Well, a DM role is very varied, but I just want to quickly pick up on the membership benefits because we've talked about so many today. And just one recently that came to light through a networking event was a member joined up, and the reason they joined up is because they got complete value for money. Their £147 plus, I think it was a £30 joining fee at the time, brought back to them over £3,000 in monies that were owing to them, but they had just got nowhere on their own trying to get those monies from another business or several businesses actually. And they joined FSB, and that money was sorted by the debt collection benefit. So one thing that we're always saying to members who join the networking calls is don't forget about your membership benefits. And many do, because they join up and then they don't always think FSB first. So what we try and say to every member on our networking events who attend is, and to non-members too, because obviously we'd love to have non-members join FSB as well, we do say to the members, when you're thinking about anything that could be affecting your business, think FSB first. Think about the benefits you've got. And as has been mentioned on the call today, there is an FSB app which makes things much simpler for you to access the services, whether it be the benefits as they stand or the other wider benefits that I'm hopefully going to try and cover a few now. So my role is very varied. My role is to essentially support our membership in the London area. And as I mentioned earlier, there's equivalents to me across the whole of the UK. So I really would urge you to get in contact with your regional team. I did share a link in the chat earlier. My role is to support our volunteers, and Grace on the call today. And I think having our volunteer team just completely makes a massive difference to the voice of small businesses across every single region. In London, we couldn't do or achieve what we do without the volunteers, because the volunteers are the small business owners. They are in every borough across London. They are those who have that voice and their ear to the ground, and they share the issues with us in the staff team. But we also work with an elected team of members, so elected volunteers. So we have in our team an English policy unit representative who is a small business owner, an FSB member, a volunteer, and that member feeds back key issues that we're hearing on the ground in the London region to the Mayor of London as one example, and they sit on the London Business Recovery Board and they feed the issues in at that high level. Tomorrow, for example, Grace is actually joining me with a group of other members. We're heading off to City Hall to the Mayor of London's offices for a police and preventing fraud roundtable, how we can best make a difference to support small businesses in terms of business crime prevention. So there's always lots of ways that members can get involved with FSB. And as we say, we call it Be More FSB. Don't just be a member signing up to use the benefits, get more involved because you get so much more out of it. So your £147, if you're a small business owner with no employees, suddenly goes so much further. So I would encourage anybody on the call today to join FSB. So in terms of the benefits members, I'm going to quickly go through these. So members can volunteer, and they can also be media case studies. When I say media case studies, we are asked on probably a daily basis by our national media team for inquiries from the national media, from the regional media, to say, oh, have we got a small business owner who'd like to talk about a certain issue, because we'd like to do some filming. It could be a pre-recorded interview, it could be a live interview, it could be something that goes on the online press or the printed press, and members can have the chance to be the voice of other small businesses. And it might be an issue to do with sort of how they're struggling with sort of dealing with their landlord. And in London, during the lockdown, we had a campaign that ran specifically to ask landlords to listen. And we really helped so many members in their dealings and communications with landlords across the capital. So we can really help make a difference. And the way we can help make a difference is, I think Ness mentioned it earlier. She mentioned the Big Voice panel and the Big Voice survey. Now that's easily accessible via, I think, the website, and it's under membership or volunteer, I think. And you can sign up to take part in that panel and that survey to highlight what your issues are. And then we can sort of bring all those issues together and make a difference through our sort of policy work at a regional level and also at a national level. So I've talked about media case studies. We also have, as another big memory reminder to you all as members, is every week on, well, in London it's on a Friday, in other parts of the country it's on other days of the week, we have something called the FSB bite-sized newsletter. And it's a really good way to make sure that you stay reminded of what your benefits can do for you, but also to read about sort of local news, important items that are important to you as a small business owner in whichever region you are based in the UK. So I'd really urge you, if you don't really want to receive it, I'd make sure you do receive it, click that sort of preference box on your membership subscription and receive it. And then if you then just have a quick skim through it, there might be something that's really important for you. If there isn't, you can always delete it, but I'd encourage you to receive that bite-sized newsletter on a weekly basis. The other thing that we can do with membership is that we support lots of local events. So across the country, we attend sort of business expos and meet the buyer events. We attend sort of business awards run by local authorities. And that's another chance where members can actually be a part of those events too. And it really does help make a difference for the small business owner. In terms of MPs, we talked about sort of talking to councils just now, but we do hold regular MP roundtables. These are either virtual or in person, or sometimes we actually go to their constituency offices as well. And so members, FSB members, get a chance to talk directly to their MP about the issues that are important to them, and we help to resolve those with them too. The other thing that we're very good at is we love social media, because social media helps us to get messaging out to you really fast. So we would encourage you, wherever you are in the country, to sign up to FSB on our Twitter pages and also our Facebook pages. So Twitter, we have a brilliant national Twitter account, which I'll share the link in the chat in a moment. But then regionally, I would go to your regional team and just make sure that you're knowing which social media channels to follow, because then you can engage with us and we can engage with you. It helps you with your business profile as well. I think really, we are here about promoting you as a one voice for small businesses, and please just be as involved as you can as an FSB member, and we can do everything we can do to help you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's really good. And actually, I like to think that FSB is the big voice of small businesses, because a small business on its own is just one small voice. But once you're in a lovely organisation like the FSB, which can really influence policy, can really make changes happen, then you've got a big voice, and that's really great.
Absolutely. And I think, Ness, just one other point there, obviously we talked about networking. So we are one big voice, and obviously the volunteers, they do host and run networking events across the country. And we did share the link in the chat earlier. But obviously the networking events are a great way to sort of share issues, feel connected to each other wherever you are based in the UK.
Yeah, and I know we're starting to do some face-to-face events again now, but we're also doing our virtual events, and you can attend anywhere really, because there's no traveling or anything like that, and it's fantastic. So yeah, as you say, do have a look at our virtual events and attend as many as you can. Really, really good.
I know one member, I will just share this story, one of our members in the London region, he actually, during the lockdown, he went all over the country to all the FSB events, and he did leave a Trustpilot review, because that's another thing to have a look at, is our FSB Trustpilot review page to see what people say about FSB. But this one particular member, he just said he attended so many FSB events across the country because it's so easy to do and they're free to attend. But his business went up 300%.
Wow.
The connections he made, and there's a review on Trustpilot.
Well, that's fantastic, isn't it? That's so good. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. That's really good. If we could turn to you again, Grace, if you've got any other things that you'd like to talk about regarding using the membership.
Yeah, Sarah just mentioned it actually when she talked about business going up, and I would say that mine definitely has, because of who I know. And so with my business, it's a training company that focuses on anti-racism. And if anybody if anybody's saying, we'd like somebody to do that kind of work, I'm usually the person that they come to, and that's such a nice thing to have. But so many things I've taken part in. So yes, we're going to, as Sarah mentioned, going to the Mayor's office on Thursday to take part in a fraud prevention consultation on focusing on cyber crime. But other things we've done, and presenting awards. I mean, gosh, ever since I became a lead in the borough of Hackney, but also part of the diversity and inclusion policy, I've been presenting awards, and I love it. I love it. It's a chance to just get dressed up real nice and go to somewhere in London, somewhere where they've got wonderful chandeliers, and but it was really, really nice to present an award where we had 2 Hackney winners, and that was, I think, 2019. Brilliant, excellent. Another benefit is taking part in, not taking part in, but the conferences are brilliant. They're really, really good. You meet people, you share information. I've got, we've got one of our members. I spoke to him a couple of days ago. We both love parkrun, and we encourage each other online, but also in terms of business. So kind of things I've taken part in. Sarah also mentioned it. Sarah mentions loads, but some of the things that we've done is media interviews. I did one last year, September, where we were talking about the petrol crisis. Now, you might think, what has Grace Graham, trainer, got to do with talking about the petrol crisis? But I put a post out on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I said, I went all the way to this venue and was waiting for people to come. Had it booked for about 10 or 12 people, and only 4 people showed, and the rest came online because they couldn't travel in. But you still have to pay for the venue. And Sarah saw that, got in touch, said, well, actually, a couple of stations are looking for people to talk about the petrol crisis. So there I was talking about the petrol crisis. So quite a number of the businesses that are in the news talking about issues that are going on, a lot of them are FSB members, because we're very well trusted. FSB is loved by Sadiq Khan. He mentioned that in one of his assemblies. So that's really nice. Whenever there's an election, so the couple of the mayoral elections, we've been invited to question the candidates, so we meet all the candidates from the party and talk to them. But we do lots of roundtables, lots of consultations with politicians, and you also get training or advice or workshops on how to be politically not politically motivated, but apolitical, because kind of hard to be. We've all got political persuasions, but when you're meeting politicians, it's really good to be try not to take sides. So that's interesting. So yeah, presenting awards is great. Another thing I took part in, FSB has campaigns, and the best one that I took part in was the Fair Pay, Fair Play campaign, and that had tons of tweets, because I tweeted my I tweeted the video, and then there was also a little bit where it was just me talking, and I copied my local mayor in it, and then he retweeted it, and it got retweeted so many times, and had lots of interaction, and you know, it's just such a great thing. But if you're a member, yeah, be a member. But if you are big on social action, which, you know, I am a born activist, my mum was an activist, so am I. FSB really allows you to get involved, so you can have your voice heard. Right, I'm going to be quiet now, but yeah, I'm just so glad that I'm doing this, and we are doing this. FSB is us. Proud to be FSB.
Thank you so much, Grace. And honestly, we didn't pay you, did we, to say all these wonderful things?
No.
Thank you. We promised that we would let Gardner have a little chance to talk about the Legal Hub and show you that in very quickly, go through some of that. So I'm going to try to share the screen and you can have a little look at what the Legal Hub consists of.
Thanks, Ness. I really appreciate that. If you can pop that up on the screen for me, just the holding page, really, and I'll just briefly talk through. Grace, I love your passion for FSB. If I could bottle that and sell it, we would make a fortune, wouldn't we? Thank you so much for that kind endorsement. That's amazing. But just to get back to the Legal Hub, just for a couple of minutes, it was one of the things we mentioned earlier. It's been mentioned by Grace a few times, including Sarah too. It's a flagship product that we've got, and you can see it on there. This is the landing page when you log into the website, put in your login details, which you get supplied when you actually join as a member, and this is what it actually throws up. And there are loads of different things here, as you can see. One of the questions in the chat was about debt recovery, and this is where you would access that. But on the Legal Hub, there are 1,400 documents, all of them fully customizable. You can go in and change them. You can put your company's details in there. You can move FSBs and put yours in and use them to your advantage. There's everything from contracts, employment and trading, cybersecurity, data protection, GDPR, employment law, health and safety, taxation, debt recovery. There's lots and lots of different things that you can actually go in and see. So there's 1,400 documents in total. I would ask prompt all members, if they can, jump onto the legal website, see what works for you. There is something for every business in there. You know, there's guides on how to do certain things. There are templates that you can use and use to help you generate additional business, help to keep your business right. You can also pick up the phone, whether that be through the app or via the website too, and you can speak to a specialised solicitor in the appropriate area that you're looking for advice on, and they can talk you through the documents on a one-to-one basis. It's a fabulous service we've got. We get literally millions of hits a year on the Legal Hub, because once people go on it, they think that's a great thing. I wonder if they've got this. Invariably we have. So please, as a member, jump onto the Legal Hub and use these documents and services, policies, forms, notices, different types of letters. To go back to the debt recovery one just for a second, there are customizable letters on there which you can use. And the good thing about, and some of the letters that we send regarding debt recovery, because Sarah did mention that earlier on, is that we have a 70% hit rate on the first letter, i.e. a 70% success rate, getting paid back the full debt to use the individual or organisation just from the first letter alone. If it needs to go to court or it needs to be chased more in depth, you can engage with FSB Debt Recovery and they will talk you right through the whole of that process and procedure. It's a fabulous service. We're all about making your lives as easy as we possibly can. And one of those things is getting turnover coming to your back into your business, which is perhaps outlying, which is better in your pocket than anybody else's, that's for sure. We also have a further 600 documents which are absolutely aligned to the devolved nations. So Scots law and the law in Northern Ireland in particular is completely different from that south of the borders. So there are customizable documents which are absolutely bespoke to Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular. So if there's any changes to those documents from an English policy point of view or from a Scottish policy point of view, you can actually see the differences and use the correct template. But please use it. Jump on the app. It's so easy to get access to that on the app. And my biggest advice to anybody would be use as much documents as you can. It's completely free to use. There is no download limit. There is no amount of times that you can call or not call. It's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year you can access it, and it's completely unlimited, and it is a right off your membership. So please, please do use it. There we go, Ness.
Oh, thank you very much. And as you say, the best advice really is for people to just have a look, see what's on there, because we've only just shown you a tiny little bit today. Have a look, go through it and see what's there. And I love the fact that there's templates that you can modify for your own business. You can download them, make them sort of bespoke for your own business and just use them. Really, really good.
It's a fantastic service, Ness, to be honest with you. It's really good. And the documents are completely up to date. We have various solicitors that sit in Markel who provide their legal and taxation services that just, as of a day, look at the most up-to-date documents we've got and continue to update them to be as relevant to today's market as possible. Yeah,
that is fantastic. Okay, well, also, I know, Gardner, that you were going to talk about a special offer, weren't you?
I've got to do my salesy bit, haven't I?
Well, we've got Black Friday coming up tomorrow, is it? No, this coming Friday. So
what we've actually got, because we actually did this last year as well. We offered the Black Friday deal last year, and the amount of reservations we took for membership and the amount of new people that joined went off the chart. We are not, because we're a not-for-profit, we don't really discount, to be fair. We really can't, if I'm being very honest with you. We really can't discount because the membership subscription fee is so low in the first place. But what we do get the board to agree to, hopefully again, in later years, but this year we've got the board to agree to a Black Friday deal, where if anybody decides to join between now and the end of November, so please keep that end of November date in your heads, anybody that joins between now and then will be able to access a discount code, which is BF Black Friday in capitals 15. And when you join, and hopefully you do that through one of your friendly membership advisors, they will allocate that code to the reservation subscription fee, and that will deduct 15% off. We don't normally do this, so if you're looking for a good reason to join FSB and you want to save yourself a few quid, I think now's the time to do it.
Absolutely, that's really good to know. And you said earlier you don't mind if we will send the details out on an email, and if people have got any sort of questions about joining or anything, we'll just add your details and they can contact you.
Put my contact details in. Like the Legal Hub, I'm available 24 hours a day. Give me a shout.
Are you?
I know I might have committed to something there, but you might be able to tell us, but yes, I'll be available.
Okay, well that's great, because I will definitely put the links into the email so people can contact you, or James or anybody that they want to ask a question. We're running out of time, so I thought perhaps we'd have a quick look and see if there's any questions come into the Q&A box that we've not answered yet. And what I'll do is I'll just bring everybody else in so that we can go around and see. Does anybody have any kind of last minute words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to say that we haven't said already? Very, very quick run through.
I will actually. If you're a member who's considering doing volunteering or taking the lead for anything with the FSB, just remember you're doing it for small businesses, but you are also a small business as well. So you're doing it for yourself and others. But also, just give what you can. You don't have to give up hours and hours and hours throughout the week, but you do what you can. And when you do some of the, when you do the volunteering, whether it's event lead or policy lead, or you're getting involved with doing something like this, just enjoy it and work with development managers, because Sarah and Matt in London are just incredibly supportive and wonderful people.
Thank you, Grace. And as Sarah said earlier, there is a development manager wherever you are in the country. And if you don't know who your development manager or your regional team is, your local team, just give me a shout, and I will let you know. I will point you in the right direction. Okay, great. Let's see if we've got any questions that have come in that we've not answered. I know we've answered a few on the way. Somebody has asked, does FSB Care replace or offer the same thing as an EAP? Gardner?
I can take that one. I'm assuming that's an employee assistance programme. Hopefully I've got that right. If it's not, please come back to me and let me know. It offers a very limited version of that. It is an entry level. It's not really a kind of Bupa type service as such. It is designed to get you or your members of staff or members of your family back up and running again very quickly so that you can then progress and look forward to running your business properly. It doesn't offer quite the full benefits of an EAP. Probably entry level would probably be the easiest way to put it.
Right, okay, thank you. You can find out full details about any of the benefits on our website. So you can have a look on the website and it will explain it in a lot more detail because we haven't got a great deal of time today, unfortunately. Oh, somebody's asked, thank you very much for asking. Rachel has asked about, and she's entered our awards, and I didn't actually mention our FSB awards, which are an annual awards ceremonies up and down the country, and they are all entries are open now. I think there's 12 different categories that you can enter. Rachel has asked, when might we find out about whether we've been successful? Well, they're still open for entries, and I think that's up until January time, Sarah.
Yeah,
it varies, doesn't it, for different areas?
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm in the Southwest and our awards final is in February, but I think our awards are open entries until January. But again, have a look at the website and encourage everybody, every small business to enter the awards because it's a fantastic thing to have under your belt if you can, even if you're nominated to, and you don't actually win your section, it's still a really good thing to have under your belt. And if you win, it's even better.
Yeah. I mean, and Ness, on that one with the FSB Awards, the FSB Awards website is different to the FSB website.
Yes, that's right, it is.
FSB Awards is a separate website and it shows you where the regional finals are and how to enter the awards. There's some useful tips. And there was even recently an online webinar of FSB, I think it was last week or the week before, but it's on the downloads where it sort of shows you how to, or they talk through how to enter a successful entry into the awards. So that might be worth having a look at and putting into the shared links after today.
Yeah, okay, I will do.
And then just with awards, we do have every year, we have volunteer recognition awards. So we all get very excited across the regions to see how many of our volunteers get nominated and win awards. And we know Grace has been very successful the last few years, winning different awards. That's another thing that members can enjoy as well.
Yeah, and it is lovely to be able to say you're an award-winning business. Somebody has asked about, I know you've just answered that, Gardner, but someone's asked about how often the legal templates and the legal documents are updated.
Sure, they're done on as I just answered, they're done on an ad hoc basis. So we're looking at it daily, I would have to say. And we have solicitors in place in Markel who are constantly looking at new updates or changes to various policies and legal documents. And as soon as we discover that additional work or additional changes to policy, we change them immediately. So we do hope that the document you see today is absolutely relevant for today and for your needs.
Okay, thank you. And I know we've only got a couple more minutes to go, but we've had quite a few questions and I know you've answered them separately about FSB Care, but it might be just as well to reiterate it so that everybody gets to know. Is FSB Care free? And does it come with any additional costs? And also, if you don't have any employees, but they have trustees, are they covered for the physio and mental health cover? Okay, I'll take the second one first of that. He says, yes, it depends how the trustees actually set up. But if it is actually linked to the main part of the business, then yes, the trustees would be able to access through the main members some help and support via FSB Care. So yes, certainly you can get access to that through a trustee, but it does depend specifically on how the trustee is actually set up. But we can offer more advice on that maybe moving forward if anybody wants to get more advice on that. I would need to find out how it's set up and then I could offer exact. But in the main, yes, there's a short answer to that question. And the other one was, yes, FSB Care is a right of membership. It is a right of membership, and the advice is for the member and the support is for the member, but it also it can be extended out to additional members of family, for example,
and various things like that. If the additional members of family are not members, there is a cost which is applicable to that, which is £250 for the year. But it's very, very infrequent that FSB actually look at that. We just offer the members and the extended circle, if that makes sense, best practice, best advices all the time. So there is an additional cost if it's something you wanted to take as a member, sorry, with maybe a spouse or a family member or something like that. There is a charge. However, FSB Care are very, very good, and in 9 out of 10 cases, they will just reach out completely free of charge.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Well, I'm really sorry, but it looks as though time is against us today, and that just about brings us to the end of today's webinar. I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone in the audience for joining us today, and I hope you've taken away some useful information. Big thanks to our panel for giving up their time today. And as I said, we will share the recording of today's webinar, and that goes to everybody who's registered. We hope you'll be able to join us again on one or more of our FSB webinars in the future. And if you've enjoyed today, do please leave us a Trustpilot review. We do really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.